hamstring injuries in football are in an all-time high. It's partly down to the increase in matches, but it's also down to football relying on athleticism a lot more than it did, say, 15, 20 years ago. You take a look at the full-back position, for example, where back in the day it was more focused on defending. Now, not only do you have to defend, you have to get up and support the attackers, which means more sprinting. And more sprinting means more stress on the hamstrings. And when that stress outweighs the capacity that your hamstrings can handle, that's when injuries happen. So I made it my #1 goal to master the Nordic hamstring curl, and since then I've had 0 injuries. And it's not just me. They've done a study in the Danish Premier League, and the football teams that introduced this exercise saw a 70% reduction in hamstring injuries. Now, that's just by starting the exercise. If you see a 70% reduction in just starting, imagine how much you're decreasing your chances of injuring your hamstrings when you master the exercise. But for this to make sense, we must start at level 1. I started here on my back in a hamstring bridge, pushing through my heels, engaging my glutes at the top. I was building up the 30-second hold for 3 rounds, and then over time starting to extend the legs a little bit more, which creates a bit of extra tension on the hamstrings. Once I was able to hold for 30 seconds, 3 rounds, then I had my baseline of strength, and I started into the Nordic progressions. So I started band assisted, keeping the chest up, leaning forward slightly, and holding for 2 to 3 rounds of 20 seconds, whatever you feel like you can tolerate. Now, I would often fail in this. I would at the start be able to hold for, like, say 10, 12 seconds, fail, go back in, but then over time I built to the full 20 seconds, no failure. I got a little bit further, which made it harder, and then I started to work my way into reps. If you can even say get about halfway down and fail, that's great. All you got to focus on is this area that you can control, staying in it as long as possible, and then over time you're going to be able to get lower and lower and eventually control the full range on that band. When you can do that, then you work your way down to a band with less resistance, eventually finishing body weight, controlling the full eccentric to the floor and engaging the hamstrings to lift the torso back up. Once you can build up to 3 sets of 5 reps on the Nordics, your hamstrings will have the capacity to deal with anything the football throws at it. But what makes the exercise so great also makes it really, really hard. So it's important to 1, get a good warm up for it, and 2, give yourself at least 2 rest days between doing the exercises and actually playing a match. I like to use the sled for a warm up. I just walk backwards and push forwards at a 1-to-1 ratio. So I pull for 10, push for 10, and I always make sure I finish the warm up on a pull. Set the timer somewhere between 4 or 6 minutes long, and just keep going consistently till you get a burn in the legs. One key exercise for building strength in the end ranges is a Romanian deadlift. You can work both legs at a time, or you can do single leg variations. And why this is great, the goal is to get a deep stretch in the hamstrings, and how we do that is keeping our spine in a neutral position and pushing the hips back. Now, depending on your hamstring strength and mobility, you might push the hips back, and here is as far as you can go. That's fine, you just pause, come up from there. I also used a single leg bodyweight hamstring curl to build stability through the hamstring, one leg at a time. And if you look at the movement pattern of this exercise, it teaches the hamstring to contract under load in a similar way that it would if you're sprinting. So if you're struggling to hold your body weight in this exercise, you're going to struggle to hold your body weight when you're sprinting in a football match. If you need, start here, double leg, lift the hips up, bridge up and kick your heels to your butt. Slowly control it on the way out and just work through your natural range. You might struggle to get halfway up, just hold there, come back out, come back down. This is what happens when you're out of breath, trying to explain things. But control it on the way down, and then eventually the double leg variation will get easier. And then you build the single leg, and the goal is 3 sets of 12 each leg. And we're going to finish off with elephant walks, a mobility exercise. The goal is to hook the fingers under the toes, push one knee back and lock the leg out, pausing for a second in the stretch each time. But as I mentioned, my hamstrings used to be super tight. So I had to start here with my hands elevated on a box, just pushing the knee back, pausing for a second each time in the stretch. And say you're doing this for 45 seconds. Over the 45 seconds, you're working from fingertips, trying to get closer, the flat palm on that box. Then eventually that will feel handy enough. You go to the lower box and keep going until you can hook the fingers under the toes. All right, so two times I like to do this in the week is one after I train my lower body. A reason being, it's not for like a cool down or anything like that, but you've already put the effort to put the blood flow into the tissue. It's already warmed up, so it isn't going to hurt to do a little bit of mobility in the hamstrings, and it's going to help you get a bit deeper into those stretches. And then the second time I would like to do that in the week is just the day after a football match. You know yourself, you're going to be feeling really tight. So just doing that for 45 seconds, 2 to 3 times, that's going to put blood flow back into the area, which is going to help kickstart the recovery process. Thanks for watching. Hopefully that made a bit of sense today. Some of you probably were thinking that your hamstring problems were coming from tightness, but the truth is it's more than likely coming from an imbalance or weakness, and tightness is just the symptom. But you'll soon find that out once you try the Nordic, if your hamstrings are strong enough. Anyway, I've left a link in the description to that study that I mentioned about the Danish League. You can check it out if you want. All the best.